Hi there, and welcome to our live stream this week. We're super happy to have everyone here, and we're really excited about this week. I'm here in the studio with someone you all recognize, Nick Houston, our sales manager here at Gotham, and someone who's worked on set with Gio Lima before, who is the person that you may all have been excited to tune in and see.
Yes, and see him you shall.
You shall see him. Obviously, he's not here immediately in our studio. We do have a great video that we're going to go to in just a minute where we will take you outside to our parking lot and take you through some of the techniques that he's learned through his experience on the web series Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with working with humans and vehicles and miking the various sounds of a car rig.
Mm-hmm. And Gio's really sad he couldn't be here. He's working. He's a very in-demand guy. But right. He is going to be available for your questions. So you can always, while you're watching the video, if something pops into your mind, leave a comment in the side. We will get it to him. He will get it back to us. If not now, later we'll share it on social media.
That's right. So to start things off, I was actually talking with one of our owners, Peter Schneider, this morning, and he was telling me something that I hadn't even heard before, which was how we originally came to be involved with Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. We put together the kit for Gio, which he'll go into in detail in the segment, but Peter was telling me an interesting story about how Jojo Pennybaker, who some of you may know, was actually the director of the first couple of episodes of the show, and he is the one who called Peter, their old friends, and they started discussing what would be the best way to set this up, and that's how we became involved. Peter said, we got to go with Zaxcom, we got to have ultimate redundancy on all of this, which are things that Gio will get into as we air that segment. So I think this may be a good time to do that.
Let's roll the clip.
Welcome. We're here in our Gotham Sound parking lot where we have 2 customer parking spaces, and we're standing in front of our Gotham Sound van talking to Gio Lima today about the work that he does miking humans and cars in various driving shows, and particularly you're the sound supervisor on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, popular web series. So welcome, Gio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, I know that when you were first contacted about that project, it was a project that we at Gotham were already involved in with the previous sound mixer on that job. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yes, Marty Kelly, the great, unfortunately late Marty Kelly. I had spoken to him on another job, and he had told me that he had worked on the project. And I was very interested because I had seen it and thought it was fantastic and fun and really entertaining.
Yeah.
He wasn't available for season 2 because he was tied into another show at that time.
Yeah.
And he pretty much had a system in place at that point. The gear that was selected was already kind of his choice. He worked together with Ted Nelson and in conjunction with Gotham to put together the perfect package to kind of cover all the bases, to make sure that there's always a fail-safe to fall back on if one rig fails or if they go out of range of the wireless. So the choice was to have, first off, the transmitters that are used for talent are the Zaxcom transmitters. It was previously the TRX 900s. Mm-hmm. And the recording capability was really essential there in case our host and our guest step away from the vehicle, step away from the bag, and I'm not close enough with a second rig.
Yeah.
That being said, let me start back a little bit, but the gear that's chosen is 2 separate rigs, so 2 recorders, with matching receivers in both rigs that can pick up our guest and our host, and to also be able to pick up plant mics.
Yes.
So there's a rig that's placed in the car in our picture car, and one is on my person that I carry around with me when we go from location to location.
Great.
There is actually a 3rd rig with a second mixer, our A2, that comes into play only on our guest day. The show is pretty much broken into 2 separate days that are completely independent of each other, pretty much. One day is our B-roll day, our car B-roll day, which the package is just 1 single recorder, 1 transmitter or 2 transmitters possibly. And that's, a lot more of that is just on Foley, wild sounds that are laid in with posts that I kind of document the whole car from
And the idea
front to
is
end.
that the car is almost a character in the episode, right?
It
So
certainly
you're really
is.
trying to get those visceral auto sounds
Exactly.
on B-roll day.
Every car is different. The next day, usually we do the B-roll day first for the most part, and the next day is our guest day. So sometimes if the car breaks down or sputters or things, these are all sounds that we have to make sure we have, because we've had problems sometimes with these classic cars, these vintage classic cars that are incredible to look at, but sometimes aren't completely kept in shape the way they should be. So we try to document, I try to document the car, every sound of the car, from you know, windows going up and down, windshield wipers, doors slamming, the sounds of the engine from the front, the engine open, with the hood open, the exhaust from the back. I try to do a 360 if we do any kind of shots that match. A lot of the car sounds are recorded strictly with a boom.
Okay.
We use a Sheps CMIT, CMIT 5U.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is done just wild. Car's parked, I have someone help me. We do every sound in the car, from starting, revving the engine, driving off.
Yeah.
Try to document every sound of the car, pretty much. Besides that, what I try to do is also take a plant mic and place it on the car, so we can get some sounds of the car while it's driving around. So we have plenty of sounds to layer in post.
Do you use a wireless transmitter with a lavalier for that, or what kind of mic is your preferable plant mic?
I do, because of the fact that our show, we work very quickly on our B-roll days. We don't have the choice to really use maybe the proper tools all the time. We do what works the quickest and the best, and we just do our best to make it as the quality as good as possible there.
Absolutely.
A lot of times what I'll do is I'll take a Zaxcom transmitter with recording capabilities, the TRX 900, and I'll wire the license plate of a car in the back. And I'll run that cable wherever I can, to the trunk. Sometimes I've actually run it to the chassis on the bottom and kind of bongoed with, like, you know, Velcro straps and things just to keep it connected there. Sometimes these cars don't even have trunks. That's the thing. I don't know necessarily, we can't necessarily choose the right color mic or the right kind of mic, because interior, exterior, trying to plant these mics, you never know what you're going to get. Some of them don't have trunks. Right. Sometimes they have an engine where the trunk normally is. So you can't really run it to the inside of the vehicle. So that being said, it's really just a challenge of looking at what you have in front of you, seeing where you can place it, and then kind of working with it from there.
And that's why it was so important in creating the rig that you have just sort of comprehensive equipment available to cover all your bases, is the idea, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
It's not necessarily a perfect package put together. Like, it works for this show. It's not necessarily going to be the best choice for every show, but for this show, it works really well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you had started alluding to the various components of the package. Before we get into day two, the talent, and how you go about miking the people and the car itself, just take us through as much as you can, the package that you work with. You mentioned the various different recording rigs that you carry one, your A2 carries one, you have one in the car, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Can you go through that?
Absolutely. So what we've done now, we have two 788s. One is in the car, one is on my person. We have the Zaxcom receiver. I use a QRX 100 with the IFB function.
Great.
That gives me incredible control over the gain of their transmitters, and also allows us to lay in time code on the Zax files that we're recording there.
Perfect.
This is critical for post, to really be able to find what they need. If there's any dropouts or anything on the bag or on my rig, they can always refer to that. That's also essential on our B-roll days. When I use a QRX, I use a TRX 900 as a plant mic, and that allows me to put the transmitter on the car, step away from it. There's time code there that's going to match what camera's shooting. So it really kind of continues to keep that continuity of, you know, time code layered in, and really helps with the workflow with post. Apart from that, we have Electrosonics 411s in our bags as well. So we have two 788s, two Zaxcom receivers that can pick up our host and our guest, and then a third receiver that's put in place in the bag in the car that picks up a plant mic that's in the car, and then that also allows me, I can switch from, on my bag, I can pick up the car plant, and also when we get to our diner, we have a plant mic that's put there as well by the table or on a server or on a third person if needed.
Okay.
On our A2 is also in charge of wiring our guest and advancing and kind of being like that leapfrog where we leapfrog each other to make sure that someone is there with a recorder at all times.
Yeah.
They have a 633, sound device is 633, nice and small and portable, with a Zaxcom receiver and an additional boom now. So we've added a little bit more over the years.
So you have so many things in the rig just to guarantee you control at all times over the various components that are moving around. And then before we were starting here today, you also mentioned one other thing. The sound device is CL Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Is another thing that you use, right?
Yes, I like to use the CL Wi-Fi because it gives me a little bit of control where I can actually, when we pull up next to our picture car, sometimes I can actually connect to that rig and see my levels, and I have that extra confidence to know we're still recording.
Yeah.
We're still, levels are still good.
Still
We're not
working.
in the red. We're not too low. As well as the CL Wi-Fi, what I like is the Zaxcom, the QRX.
QIFB option.
Yes.
On the 100.
Yes,
Yep.
that gives me incredible control over the gain on the transmitters, because sometimes we go from extremes where we're in a car, it's a convertible where they're kind of yelling and laughing, so we have to bring the gain down for that. From there, sometimes they'll walk quietly on the street, very quiet, or they'll go into a restaurant or diner that sometimes they whisper to each other.
Yeah.
So the gain is really dynamic there. The range is dynamic, and that allows me to have control there. Well, I'll bring the gain up as soon as they exit the vehicle, once I'm close enough to them.
Okay.
And then before they get back in, I'll bring the level down.
Yep.
So it keeps me in a good spot there.
Absolutely. So as much as you're doing throughout the process, it's equally important that you've done all that planning and created a rig for yourself that gives you that control so that you can then make those changes throughout the shooting process as you're moving through, so you don't miss anything.
Right.
With such high profile talent, that becomes so important.
Right. Well, the fact is that the show is shot virtually like a live show, live to tape almost, where the intent is to allow our guests and our hosts to be undisturbed.
Yeah.
To not interfere with them. There's no direction. It's produced where they know where they're going. We have stops. Sometimes they improvise and they just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
We just have to follow it.
Yeah.
So it's true to the actual title, like what reality is.
Yeah.
This is like a reality talk show. So it's challenging in that sense, but you have to just always have fail-safes put in place to guarantee that you're covered.
Perfect. So that brings us, sort of segues perfectly into day 2, which is your talent day, your live day, essentially. Should we pop into this Gotham Sound van, which is doubling as our talent car today, and talk about your process through that?
Sure, let's go.
All right, let's head in. All right, welcome to the van.
All right, this is beautiful.
I've never said that before. So here we are in the Gotham Sound van, deliveries for a nominal fee. And we have a couple of options at our disposal, huh? So you and I are obviously already mic'd here.
Yep.
What do you see with your critical eye as you get into this car, for the first time?
Well, first off, the first thing to realize and consider is that you have to know these classic vehicles, sometimes they don't have seat belts, sometimes they have lap belts, sometimes they have shoulder straps.
Copy.
So you have to know what you're getting into before you get someone wired.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that you have to do. Anytime you're doing a car thing, anyone driving a car, you're gonna drop your bag in the car, know where the seatbelt is gonna be.
Yeah.
Now, for our host, obviously our host is pretty much driving every time.
Yes.
So you're always gonna want to favor their right side. So you want to kind of be near the center, but to the right, obviously, because the seatbelt is gonna come across from the left shoulder down.
Okay.
Opposite for our passenger, of course, the other way. So we want to be on this side. With this show, we really can't stop down to reposition mics, to improve what we're doing. So we really have to set it, make sure it's right, and leave it alone.
So you check the car first, and so you know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
And then you pick a spot to mic the talent, and you just have to stick with that.
The problem is there are variables that are involved there. You know, we have a woman that maybe has a lower cut top,
Yes.
or someone has a button down. There's always variables. You have to be ready to improvise and do your best to give us clean sound. So you want to always stay, obviously, to our left side with the passenger and our right side, but you don't want to go too far off axis, or else, you know, when they turn,
Then I'm looking
then
forward.
of course it's a problem, because it's a 360. They turn, they look out the window, and there's a lot of things you have to kind of have there. So you want it to be kind of dead center, but safe. Also, you know, usually we do the show in the spring and in like the early fall. So thankfully we don't have a lot of coats and scarves and things to worry about. We have had that happen. That kind of adds a little bit of another factor that's really a challenge, but we do our best with that, and you kind of just work with what you have. As for that, so that is really the primary audio. That is the show. The content is all on the lavs.
Yeah.
And again, that's why the control with the QRX 100 with the IFB function is critical to keep the proper gain structure, to make sure nothing's blowing out, and to make sure that we have that recording capability there as well.
Absolutely.
That being said, apart from that, we usually will put a plant mic in the car as a secondary to kind of get that third character of the vehicle, get some sounds there, because if there's someone that shouts out sometimes, or they honk the horn right in scene, we have to kind of have something there.
Okay, great.
So looking at this dashboard, if this was our vehicle, which this is today, thankfully.
Today, yes.
You know, we kind of take a look around. Also, we would have a few GoPros set up on the windshield. So the wires themselves are not critical to hide.
Okay, great.
They're going to be wires running anyway because of the nature of
and the cameras aren't looking forward as much as they are back.
Exactly.
Talent. Okay.
With this vehicle, I would see, you know, sometimes I've gone to the rearview mirror. But this rearview mirror, as you can see, is pretty far away from us. It's about 2 and 3 feet away from us.
Yeah.
So I would choose not to probably do that. I would probably go lower on the dashboard somewhere.
Okay.
Perhaps here.
So we have a lav here.
We have a mic
if you
here.
want to tell us about it.
What I would do is probably just try to find a sweet spot and then look for a place where I can actually run the wire, so it's not, you know, really gross to look at, ideally, because we may or may not see the inside. Usually we don't at this point when we're in with the guest.
You would have gotten that on B-roll day already, probably. Okay.
Exactly. So here, what I would probably do is potentially try to take the mic and try to place it maybe somewhere in the corner here.
So it's facing out.
Facing out. And with that kind of would serve as a backup, a secondary kind of mic if they laugh or anything, you hear that. Also, you're going to hear some of the controls of the car, which is kind of,
Click.
again, we're not trying to avoid that. That's part of what we're in. That's the environment we're shooting in. And it is a character. So it's okay to hear a little bit of the keys jangling or the gear shift happening. Again, air is always going to be off. These things are always going to be taken care of by our host.
Very good.
So we would plant the mic somewhere like this, or perhaps even, you know, below here maybe.
Facing up. Okay.
Facing up, perhaps. And kind of just do your best to hide it, really. Again, this is a grayish black interior, so we would want to use a black mic, a black wire. You know, I have a couple different colored tape, you know, white gaff tape, black gaff, black moleskin, tan moleskin, transport tape. All these things kind of help out to try to hide and conceal what we're trying to do here. Usually you just try to find like a bit of a thread on a little edge there and run it along the edge, and then maybe drop it into the glove box, really.
Yeah.
Drop it right in there. Try to take all the slack and make sure, you know,
Run right along.
if you
So
ran
if I
that right
hold this,
along, we tape that
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I have a piece of transport or black.
We got black gaff.
A piece of black gaff right here, handy dandy. I try to fix that right there.
So
And again,
even though it's there, it's obvious, you keep it minimal.
yeah,
Try to keep it a little bit concealed.
This is
so that it's, simulates that live vibe of the show.
Exactly. To some extent, this is kind of a dead zone here when it's a guest day. Yeah. We have 3 GoPros here. We have a lead and a follow vehicle.
Yeah.
So you're not really seeing down here.
Yeah.
So this is pretty safe.
Yeah.
But again, you don't want it falling off. You just make sure that it's solid. It's taped down solid and in a good spot.
And I think there's probably something to the fact that a big, bulky, microphone array in the center here might really throw off your talent.
Exactly.
And keeping it minimal like that allows them to be a little more natural.
The original kind of equipment choices made for the show, season 1, before I was even there, were made Ted Nelson from US TV with Marty. Really, it was about being low profile.
Yeah.
Our host really wanted the guest to feel as if they're just having coffee. They're not on a show. It's just like, just capture us while we're doing our thing.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no blocking. There's no stop and let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's go talk over here. There's locations picked. They just do their thing.
Yeah.
Don't bother them.
And I think you've said this to me in the past, but you kind of mic them at the beginning, take the mic off them at the end, but in the middle there, ideally they would forget entirely that you're around.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
At a certain point, I've discussed this with Ted Nelson also, that there really is a point where it almost seems like they stop being on a show and they're just hanging out.
And if you've hit that, that's the goal.
That's the sweet spot. That we're moving around them in a fluid motion without hindering them, without stopping them, without slowing them down, and we're just documenting it. And that's the intent.
That's phenomenal. Well, if somebody, we've said a lot of things. We've talked about preparing the rig, really having everything in place before, all those various redundancies you've mentioned. We've talked about the mic placement on the people, worrying about seatbelts, worrying about wardrobe and clothing. We've talked about plant mics in the car. We talked about some of the various expendables and accessories that you use. If somebody asked you, that had no experience working in cars in a situation like you work with all the time, what is the most important thing, number 1? What would your answer be? Is there an answer to that question?
That's really tough because there are so many components to it. I mean, I would say the Zaxcom transmitters, but if you don't get your mics placed in the right place and the sound is really poor or it falls, we don't have a show. So it's really, that's the stress of the show. Having everything lined up properly, knowing where everything is, being prepared, and also being able to, on the spot, if there's anything that goes down, there's no, oh, we need to go back to holding and get a piece of gear. I have to have it on me at all times. I had a situation happen where our host was moving the transmitter from his back pocket to his front pocket once to get back into the car. Pulled the antenna straight off. I was not getting any signal at all. This is while we're shooting. So I'm not hearing anything. The hard thing is our producer doesn't hear through the IFB. No one, our camera operators don't hear what he's saying either. So what happened, I had to have everything in a bag with me. I was able to quickly switch take it out, switch it out. That's where I actually had to make a stop down.
Wow.
Which is not really but if it's a quick stop for 20, 30 seconds, we pick it right back up and you just roll into it.
They'd rather you not make a big deal out of it, run in, run out.
There's a big difference from stopping down and saying, hey, I need 10 minutes, we have to hold. And being like, hey, I need to make an adjustment. Boom.
Done.
My intention is to try to minimize, if not try to just avoid any kind of stoppages. So I've tried to, over the different seasons, tried to just improve my preparedness, improve my game to be in a place where everything's been thought of, and I've taken care of it. All the gear has been checked out. Luckily, you guys do a great job providing me the gear and sourcing the gear for us. So.
Well, it's a rig that we really like because of the specificity and the redundancy. Those are two things that we hold to a higher regard here at Gotham in terms of each rig being made specifically for the job at hand, and then looking at all those various redundancies, making sure we have backups for all the parts that could fall apart during it. And then I think something that you alluded to just now as one of the most important things for the job, and maybe you weren't going to say this about yourself, but it's having somebody like you with that experience who can figure out, what's going wrong and how do I fix it immediately.
It's important to know the format of the show You know, it's not always about like getting the perfect placement, getting the perfect. Sometimes you have to know, I can't interrupt this conversation right now.
Yeah.
You know, I can't jump in if it's not perfect or there's a little bit of rustling noise. Sometimes you have to let that go to allow the content to play out.
Yeah.
And then if it's really truly unusable, then you make a big thing about it, and you say, I need to stop. Critical adjustment could jeopardize our show. That's when you stop for this show. But I avoid that at all costs.
Of course, and they know that having hired you because of your experience and professionalism, that if you were to bring something like that up, they know it's a legit thing, you know, and not just somebody worrying about inconsequential issues.
Right.
You know, they know that anything that you would bring up would be legitimate.
Right.
You have a couple different ways that you monitor and you send to the follow car and to producers that want to hear what's going on, obviously. How do you reconcile that with those moments when it does go out of range, when you're kind of relying more on the Zaxcom in-unit recording capability? And how do you talk to your producers about what they're hearing versus what's actually being recorded so that they know that everything's going smoothly the whole time?
Well, the good thing is that we have a pretty tight-knit team that we work with. They kind of know the issues that we kind of run into sometimes with range.
Yeah.
You know, we're working in New York City and we're working in Los Angeles a lot of times. Two very tough cities with frequencies. And what we've done to try to kind of resolve that is to be the camera operators need to hear what's going on. They need to hear content, because if our host refers to someone or someone they see on the street, we need a reaction in real time. We need to see that cutaway in real time. So what we've set up is 2411 receivers in our lead and follow vehicles, plugged into the car with two shark fins. Our lead vehicle, obviously shark fins pointing out the back to try to pick up our picture car. And our lead vehicle with two shark fins pointing forward. Our transmitting is all IFB. Our camera operators know that all they have to do is press the button on the IFB on the R1A. Just press that once and it'll flip from the car rig to my rig, and they can flip-flop back and forth.
So whichever one has better range at that point, they know.
Yes.
Okay.
And when we step away from the vehicle, then they can switch, press the button on the R1A, hear my rig, and record there the whole time and have that. Once they jump back in the vehicle, then they press the button again, and then they can pick up the car rig.
And meanwhile, you have the 411s, those are in IFB mode, receiving that also, right? And they're turning essentially the whole car's sound system into an IFB monitor.
Exactly.
So you're hearing in either of those cars what's happening in the Talon car.
Yes. And that really helps, because the producers that are in the vehicle, we can hear it that way. It gives us a 411, which is it's going to pick up the IFB signal in a much better way than just an R1A.
Yeah.
And it also gives you another backup. You can have an IFB in your ear, and you'll also hear it coming through the stereo. So between the two, you can kind of put together, because obviously the dropouts aren't going to happen at the same time. So you'll be able to kind of piece together what you're hearing there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been illuminating. So thank you for being here, Gio.
Thanks for having me.
This will be your clap.
That's how Marty used to start out. He used to be like, they just get the door slammed. That's their sound.
Wow.
So we're back live. We are joined by Gio via phone, and he's excited to be here.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying the show.
So Gio, we really appreciated you coming by the other day and chatting with us in our van. We have a couple of questions from the web, and it's been great. Thank you for jumping on and responding to some of those. We know how busy it can be on set, and we're really appreciative of that. So Nick's going to read a couple that maybe we weren't able to answer, or a couple that you were able to talk about already, just so we can get some conversation going live on the video about that, all right?
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right, great. So, Gio, Cujo had a bunch of things to say. The first one was, what was the need for the external ambience on the car noise?
Well, what we do is we plant that mic on the outside for B-roll, and also that can be cut into the show at any point. If there's, we want to have a shot of our host accelerating away from a moment, and we don't have that plant mic during our live day, during our guest day, we can actually take some of that B-roll wild sound that we have and layer that into the show. Post can handle that afterwards. That also gives us a lot of kind of wild sound. You can really mix it however you want at that point. You have tons of great car noise from the outside, or if there's sounds on the street that you want to hear, like construction, or you drive past a truck, or you go in through a tunnel. We have that mic that's on the exterior of the car that can be layered into the final edit.
It sounds like what you're saying is, and it's kind of in your answer to a lot of things, but just more is better. Anything you can get is better, right?
Absolutely. In the end, I mean, our show is shot like a live show, obviously, like a live tape show, as I said before. But really, it's mastered in post. Everything it's cut down many times. Obviously, they do tons of rough cuts and kind of refine it and get it down to, you're taking about 4 to 6 hours and cutting it down to a 20-minute or under 20-minute piece. So I want to try to give post things to play with. If they have the time and they have a good turnaround time, they can really kind of really mix it down however they want and add as many wild sounds as they'd like, really.
And these are pretty unique cars, too. I mean, it's not like they could take a stock, car engine sound effect and make it sound like that car. Like, this is a unique car, and this is your only chance with that car.
That's true. Every car has its own voice to some extent. Each car has its own sound, and it doesn't sound like, my Honda. If you take a 1969 Lamborghini, it's not going to sound like a car that you're driving now. And that's what you want to just capture. Basically, I want to also try to document and almost create a sound library of each car, because also the company will also repurpose footage and do different things, and we also have our single shots, which they cut down as well. So there are a lot of different things they can do, and in the end, we're really documenting this car, which is, as we've stated, is a character.
So another question. Why the Cos 11 instead of the Cub?
Well, I'm sure the Cub is the better choice, really, if you had the time and if you had the location. The bottom line is that the Cos 11 is just low profile. It's easy to hide, and it's really there as a backup. It's not there to get our primary audio. I'm relying on the wires on our guests and on our hosts to provide us the content. The other plant mic that's there is really to just give us a little ambient car noise. As I said, sometimes they beep the horn. We want to hear that. They wave to people. Sometimes there's interaction with people from outside the car. It just gives us another mic that they can mix in the final cut.
That's great.
Let's see. And so Joe Field wants to know how you transmit from one vehicle to another. Like, do you use Comtex or Electro? And then what antennas do you use? And how do you mount them?
Okay. So on the car rig, what we have is just a standard SMQV, Electrosonics SMQV in IFB mode. We are transmitting out to our cameras. Usually the cameras are rigged with R1As, Electro R1A receivers, and those are just plugged into the cameras for ease of being able to switch from A bag and B bag, car rig and my rig. They can easily toggle just by pressing the button, switch from one to the other. Now for antennas, I have just a standard antenna. Again, sometimes I'm in the trunk of a car, or I've had it where the front hood is where the trunk is, and there's a spare tire there, and we literally have to put the bag right where the spare tire would be and just strap it down. So there's no place to really have extra wires run or extra antennas or different kinds of antennas to transmit. Now on the receiver side, for our lead and follow vehicles, I have 411s set in IFB mode to receive, and I have shark fins pointing in the proper direction. Of course, for our lead vehicle pointing back towards our picture car, and for our follow pointing forwards towards the back end of our picture car.
And part of what you've mentioned, I think, to us is, you can't be super prominent with the antennas. They'll come into play. You'll see those. Is that what you were saying?
Yes. Well, in the show, in the cut, you see all three cars. You see the picture car, you see the lead, and you see the follow vehicle in the shots. It's inevitable. It's the way we shoot the show. It's accepted as part of that's the show. And you can't see, some shark fins pointing from outside the van or shooting out the back. I mean, it's just really kind of distracting, and it looks silly. And it's really, in the end, it's about cutting it down and making sure that our producer and our camera operators can hear content so they know what to shoot. If there's a reference to someone walking on the street, we need to get a shot live as it happens. So that's the most important thing. It's really to follow content. It's not for perfect transmitting, and we're not recording what's being transmitted out of our picture car to one of the other vehicles. That's all for reference and for content, really.
And that's sort of similar to what you said with regards to the COS 11 versus Cub mic. The style that you do the show, you don't necessarily have time to, or the ability to use the antennas or to use what may or may not be a better mic. You kind of have to work with what you have.
Exactly, and we have to just kind of stick with the show format, and the fact is that you're going to see the cars, you're going to see antennas, and we can't have that. So
Absolutely.
we're kind of stuck with losing maybe a little bit of functionality for being low profile.
Okay, we have another question.
Yeah, Gio, what's the typical 2-day shoot like? Like, how long is it? How many battery changes do you have to do? What's the actual schedule like for something like this?
One day is our B-roll day, and that is really pretty much a 12-hour day for the most part. We have to work with the sun. We shoot a pretty long day. Our host comes in, and we get tons of shots with him inside and outside the car, doing our opening sequences, close-ups on hands. At that point, really, I'm not using a lot of batteries for that day. That's a lot, not as critical with our battery swaps and whatnot. Our guest day, on the other hand, is all fresh batteries in everything, all lithiums, in all of our IFBs, in all of our locket boxes, in all of our guest mics and plant mics, all fresh lithium batteries. They do that battery change first thing in the morning, try to conserve battery power until when needed to power up, and just go with it. As for the rigs, we have NP batteries powering everything, from the bag in the car to my rig on my person, and that's a concern because that's I have to be on top of that, and I have Ted and Dean from USTV. They help out with, hey, if we need a battery swap, I'm far away, they can do it for me. I'll try to leave a spare battery in each rig so at least it's there, and really just try to be on top of that. That's really a critical part as well.
And how long, once you start rolling, once the the talent shows up, how long are you actually rolling with them?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
How long are you actually rolling with the talent once they show up?
The talent gets wide, and then probably between 4 and 6 hours we're with them. Sometimes, sometimes less. Sometimes it's like 3 hours. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, but I would say maximum of between 5 and 6 hours, really.
Cool.
I have a question. It just occurred to me to ask you. We've talked a lot about how you're covering all your bases, extreme redundancy, and you yourself have that rig so you can kind of go mobile if they go off book and they decide to stop and pick some flowers on the side of the road, whatever it is. Can you give us an example? You don't have to go into too much detail, but some sort of anecdotal situation that you've been in where that did happen. You had to kind of scramble and follow them, and the rig came through for you in that instance?
Are you talking about my rig that I carry with me, or the car rig itself?
The sort of the whole package in general. Just has anything ever changed on set where you were really happy that you were covered?
Yeah. Well, usually when things change, it's when something wrong happens or an issue happens. We're dealing with fickle classic cars. We've had an episode where the car broke down and we could not get it to start, and really had to just kind of move on. The car was not turning over. We had to wait for a mechanic to get there. So we just jumped in a crew member's vehicle and basically no GoPros in the car, just shot from behind. Like, had one of the main cameras and our DP, John Taggart, jump in, and I just brought that with me, and we jumped in the back of the car. So that second rig that normally I wouldn't have in play really for recording purposes, I had that in play. That was our primary audio recording at that point, was our A bag, which is normally the recorder that I use in the diner or when we're on foot at that point.
Okay.
So again, that helped at that point. And I didn't have to worry about pulling a plant mic out of the picture car that broke down and pulling that rig out. That car, they were going to try to get it 2 locations. So I want to make sure that could just stay there, and then primary audio then switches to my bag on my body.
And your ability to be flexible in that situation really came through there and made the shoot succeed.
Absolutely.
That's really great.
Yeah.
A lot of questions and comments about potentially using mics in and around the visor. What are your thoughts about that?
I wish I could. Sometimes these cars are convertibles. You take the top down, he puts it up. It doesn't really matter how we're miking. Our host is going to do what he wants to do to make the guest comfortable and enjoy the time. So I can't say, hey, don't touch the visor, don't flip it down. A lot of times it's California we're shooting in. It's sunny there, and you want to flip the visor down, they're going to flip the visor down. So I can't obstruct our guest and our host from really just being natural and doing what they want to do on the fly.
That's great. That's a really good note. I like how you said, I wish I could.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, but I can't, it's not that kind of a show.
Yeah.
For narratives, you don't have to use lavs. You can use tons of mics and just put them just out of frame because you're never going to see it.
Because you have a frame line.
360 coverage, 3 cameras, cameras shooting from other cars shooting them. So I have to work with what kind of the format is and what I've been given.
Have you ever once gotten a frame line in this show, or is that ridiculous?
A frame line. Well, I'll try to. My plant mic, I'll always try to make sure that's a GoPro shot. I wouldn't want to do that.
Okay.
I'm actually, I believe I have rigged a COS 11 to a GoPro mounted on the windshield.
Huh.
So I'll at least try to stay out of the way there. And I do get frame lines when we do our opening sequences and some of our stuff, our close-up shots of our host's hands and things like that. So I do get a frame line for those.
Great.
And that's what was great.
Do we have any more questions?
Oh yeah.
Coming in.
So obviously your A2 is leapfrogging you and going ahead to location. How do you communicate with your A2?
Via text and via walkie. And I always communicate with them and I say, look, I'm going to be really kind of a pain. I'm going to triple check everything and make sure everything is done right just because I need to know that we're in a good position, and it's just going to help to remind you. Everyone that I use is extremely competent, very, very good at what they do. They are full-time mixers, audio supervisors, incredibly talented guys, and I know many of you guys know some of the gentlemen that I worked with, between Nico Ruderman, Daniel McCoy, Barry London, Andrew Benz. All these guys have all helped out in incredible ways and really stepped up the game, and it's incredible to have someone that you can fall back on and that can really help, and it's truly having an excellent assistant in this project.
That's great.
All right, more stuff. That's great stuff, Gio, and there's more questions. Some people talk about time code offset on the Zaxcom transmitters. Has that been a problem for you?
Time code offset. Now, I haven't had a problem with that. I'm constantly transmitting time code out because I stay hardline to the to my rig. So anytime I'm in range, it rejams the transmitters that have the recorders built in. I'm not quite sure if I'm familiar that much with the offset from Zaxcom.
But you haven't had a problem with it, in other words.
No, not at all. I have heard nothing from post-production at all, and I double-check. Once it jams usually as soon as I get into range, and, that's really an incredible tool right there.
I think you mentioned when you were here, maybe we were off camera, but it's like most jobs, if post had a problem, you'd hear about it, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So there you go. I think we can call it a success.
And what do you do when things go down? Obviously you've got 3 rigs, but if you had a transmitter that went down on Talent, what are your backup solutions?
Exactly that. I have a backup on me at all times. So I have a backup transmitter. I have backup wires. My run bag is really the handy-dandy Gotham Beach tote bag that I love so much because it allows me to fit a lot of things inside of it. And also I can just kind of relabel my pouches, and I just know exactly where everything is. I have to have everything from spare power cables to wires, windscreens, antennas, spare transmitter, electro transmitters, as well as plant mics, and I always have to be ready to improvise. If my car plant mic goes down, then I may not be able to. I may have to use the plant mic I have for the restaurant, because we didn't even discuss that, but usually I put a plant mic in the restaurant as well on the table or somewhere, so if there's any kind of conversation with people at another table or with a server, there's something there that's picking them up. But again, you're always willing to lose something to gain somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. And I like that note how, we did a segment on it. In fact, there's so many different kind of bags out there that have all kinds of functionality, but sometimes the best one for your job is a tote bag.
Yeah, that tote bag is really, I mean, I could just sling it over my shoulder. It's large enough. I'd like to use a backpack. That would be fantastic. But a backpack isn't really going to be able to allow me to put, I use a lot of those black Flextronic pouches that you get wirelesses in. I use, between 4 and 5 of those, and I have, up to 8 NP batteries on me pretty much. Yeah. I need to be able to fit all of that and just grab it and just move.
Yep.
So I can't take a Pelican, I can't take a hard case or anything like that. I have to be able to swing something over my shoulder that I can just walk with.
Excellent. We have another question?
Yes, more stuff. Gosh, lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. And Gio, let us know if you need to
go
about your day. But thank you.
I'm fine. As long as you guys don't have to cut it, I'm good to go.
Great.
No.
So also, by the way, people are watching in the UK. They said, what's up?
Hey, that's great.
So let's see. What do you do about wind protection on your mics? Do you ever do anything about that?
Oh, yeah, especially those ones outside the car that you've talked about.
Or even on talent?
On talent? For talent, if I'm using a COS 11...
Gio, can you just repeat that? You cut out a little bit there.
I apologize. On talent, if I'm using a COS 11, I always have a wind ball at all times, windscreen on the mic. I've used the DPAs, the 4060, 4063 actually is what we've used. And with that, there's a little bit of concern there because I don't really want to, I want to keep it low profile and I don't want to put a windscreen on it, and I use the concealer to hide it best and to really attach it to the fabric of our talent. But the DPAs kind of handle wind in a different way. They don't pick it up quite as much since the mic face itself is flat and not really exposed. You're not really picking up the mic. We have to really kind of blow directly into it. So with that, usually sometimes I'll try to just turn the mic face, away from where the wind would be or to one side essentially. And really, I haven't had many problems with it. I'm gonna knock on wood as I say that, but we've done pretty well with it. Usually, if you have a layer of fabric as well that you're underneath with the windscreen on a COS 11, you're pretty safe at that point. And again, you also have to know how the wind is flowing around a car. If there's a convertible, usually if you're in a convertible, I've never really gotten wind in my face. It usually comes back and scoops up and hits you in the back of the head because the wind current just kind of zips back around over the windshield and loops back around at you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, that's helpful.
So when you're working with so many GoPros, how do you handle syncing them and how do you handle syncing GoPros? Because I hear that the vibration from cars can make the mics on the GoPros essentially useless.
Well, the mics on the GoPros are just as a reference, obviously. We have a smart slate that we use that anytime we start, we roll, we clap it. We get, all the cameras are slated that way. Everything is jammed. All the cameras have locket boxes on board with fresh batteries. And we really just have to be aware that, all the cables are good. Everything's fine there because sometimes, the cameras will change their frame rate and they'll switch back to our standard frame rate. And we have to make sure that those lockets are sending and the camera's receiving time code at all times. As for the GoPros, really just get a smart slate set, jam that, hand that off, and our tech team handles the slating of those cameras since they roll and cut on the GoPros in the cars.
Okay, great.
All So what's up from the Cayman Islands? How do you deal with, you already talked about wind with a convertible. It's knowing where the mic is, so we'll skip that. But what's up from the Cayman Islands, Gio?
Hey, that's great. I'd like to be there instead of this rainy day.
Yes. How is your range transmitting talent from the talent car to your follow vehicle?
Well, again, in California and New York, they're two tough cities with frequencies. We really, from time to time, sometimes we had 50, 100 feet, and, it's a broken up signal, there's hits and stuff. But again, we're not counting on that transmission, that transmitting and receiving as our recording. That's there as reference to follow content. So if there are dropouts, we can kind of piece together what's being discussed. Because really, we're making sure we don't have to transmit in order to get usable audio. That's not really a problem. It's there as just a reference so we can follow content.
Get it.
Great.
And have you thought about using the new Electro VHF system for car to car?
No, I haven't. Maybe you guys are going to have to, introduce it to me and show me that a bit.
Something to think about.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll talk about that too.
So last question, I think you already answered this, but does each bag have its own IFB transmitter?
Yes. Bag A, which is my bag that stays with me, and the car rig both have IFB transmitters. Again, that's so we can switch from, and producers can switch and hear the car rig, and then also hear when we get to a diner or get on foot. We can switch to hearing what I'm transmitting and receiving out.
Cool. Yeah. So it's really wherever they are, if they want to listen to car content, they can switch to the IFB. If you guys get out of the car, they can switch to your IFB feed. That's why you have multiple bags. Okay. All right. And we will make this the last question. Chris Wexler wants to know, Welker. I'm sorry, Chris, I'm butchering your name. I'm a bad person, and I admit it. What about your settings on your transmitters? How do you deal with talent getting really loud all of a sudden and then speaking really quietly afterwards?
Well, what I do is obviously you want to have headroom. You don't want to clip on your transmitter. That'll really kind of make everything difficult. I kind of set it to a good speaking voice. Our host has a very strong voice. He projects incredibly well. So I know that, and it depends on who our guest is and where the mic is placed. We kind of get it ballparked, and that's where our A2, or the great guys that I work with, they are confident and they know where the range, where the gain should be set for speaking voice, and know that there's headroom if they start projecting more. And then obviously the IFB function that I'm using with the Zaxcom also gives me control, and that's critical to me, that I can bring the gain up or down depending on the situation when in range.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I truly do love now with doing the show, where that's just such a great function, because I don't use Zaxcom very often, if ever really, other than this show. And that's for this purpose, it's fantastic, where you don't have to get close enough you don't have to touch the transmitter, you don't have to approach the person, you can just stand in a close enough range to them and bring the gain up or down.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, just having the right tools for the job and making sure those are available to you when you need them on set.
Absolutely, yeah. Using the tools properly and having the right tools is really key.
All right.
Phenomenal.
So Gio, there are two more questions if you have them a moment. I'm sorry, they keep
coming
rolling in.
This is great.
All right. So one of these, it's got to be the Lectro IFB instead of Comtech because of the push-to-talk, right?
Exactly, yes. The R1A you can program is, up to 6 total frequencies in that, 5 of which you can switch through at any time you can scroll through. So luckily I'm only using 2, so I can just easily set that up when we're prepping. And many times your guys there, Gotham, Paul, shout out to Paul, setting it up. He takes care of it, gives me some good freaks. If I run into a problematic area with what frequency I'm using in a certain place, I can always just reprogram those R1As, within, a few minutes, obviously.
Paul turned red, Gio. You know how bashful he is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of our 7 dwarfs. Sorry, Paul.
Except he's grumpy, though.
No, he's grumpy and bashful. He's two of our 7 dwarves. All right, and so have you ever had to mic a vehicle other than a car? And what were the challenges of that particular vehicle?
I never had to mic a vehicle other than a car.
Well, I
No,
remember we did the rig for that one, the rig in the small Pelican case where they transitioned into another type of vehicle.
You're right. I completely forgot about that. Our Jimmy Fallon episode that we did, there was a boat that was used, and that was a first. There were 2 picture cars and a boat. So main picture car switched to another car, which towed the boat. Then the boat was put in the water, and the boat was put out on the water, and they shot on the water with GoPros there. But we didn't mic the boat. I just relied on their transmitters, and we put a custom setup rig. This was Andrew Benz that was on that episode. Thank you, Andrew. He was awesome, and you guys set up an incredible small portable rig that we stashed. It was a 744 that we stashed with just the Zaxcom receiver in a Pelican case with foam, and we pretty much put a fresh NP on it, hit record, put it on the boat, stuck it on the Pelican, put sandbags on it, and we got fantastic audio doing that. And just basically right on the floor of the boat. So it was waterproof as well. We were protected from the water because there was quite a bit of splash. But that was, thanks for reminding me, Matt. I almost forgot about that.
You're modest.
But yeah, that was all you.
Aww.
Well, I remember when you called us about that one and you said, all right, we need something that's extremely rugged and waterproof to receive all the talent channels of the normal rig. I said, what the hell are you doing, Gio? What is going on?
Hey, we had time to set it up. That was a great thing. That was fantastic. And, that was the original thought. I was like, you can do things like that with Pelicans. As long as they stay on the boat and they don't fly off the boat, they're waterproof. So they can handle it. You can always, seal it up and really really lock them properly and guarantee that no water's going to get into them.
We made sure the seal on that one was really up to standard.
Yeah.
And that's definitely another example of just knowing the gear that you needed, having it available, and making sure that that everything was on hand for the situation you were in.
Absolutely.
Did we have one more question?
No, that's
that was
it. There have been a lot of big thanks all around. Thanks
Excellent.
for talking with us, Gio.
Awesome. It was my pleasure.
Look forward to seeing you again soon.
You probably want to get some lunch on set, huh?
I'm sure I'll see you. I have it sitting right next to me. I'm going to eat right now.
Please do. Enjoy that,
All
Gio.
right.
Come on by for a drink one of these times. We'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Take care, man.
Take
Thanks
care,
so
everyone.
much.
Thank you. All right.
Awesome.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Wow, excellent that we were able to get Gio on the line to answer some of those questions. Again, we're really appreciative of his input in this, in terms of car rigs and car rigging. He's the guy to talk to, and obviously he loves to talk about it. So thank you, Gio, and if any of our viewers want to get in touch with him, I'm sure he would be amenable to that. And you're also welcome to come in anytime here to Gotham and talk to us about any of this stuff. We love it. We had a couple of other things.
Yeah, we just wanted to show, a lot of people in the live stream mentioned the Sanken Cub. This is another thing that, for more narrative things or where you have a little bit more control. This particular microphone here is a cardioid microphone for a plant. Pretty small, sounds pretty good, and we like it. And just another option that's kind of the new hot thing is this is the DPA 4098. It's a gooseneck microphone, but it is kind of basically an itty-bitty shotgun microphone. Really good for in visors or if you have to put it down the bottom. Sounds great. And usually it screws right into the top of the transmitter, but there is an extension cable that you can get to be able to remote it away from your transmitter. So other things to think about for more narrative type setups where you don't have to be so 360 like Gio.
And kind of the general takeaway, you can see there's these things available from what you heard from Gio. If you have a situation like this, come talk to us about it, or just think it through, and it just comes down to get all the things together that you need and have them ready to go so you can account for any sort of situation that you could possibly be in.
Indeed.
It kind of sounded like when we asked Gio at the end of the day, what's the the one thing that you can't forget, there just isn't one. You know, it's it's everything, and that's why it's such an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about ZaxCom today,
Yeah.
and we're super excited. Next Tuesday on our live stream, we will be doing the anatomy of a ZaxCom kit. We're happy to invite John Paul Golaski, prominent area sound mixer, into our studio to discuss that. And then, of course, anytime you want to look back at some of the live streams we've done in the past, we have them all available at our archives. And we're always happy to talk to anybody on Facebook or Twitter or by email, and all that information should be there on the screen, or it already was.
Right, and we also want to know what you want to know about. So
Yes,
if you
that's
have an
important.
idea for a live stream, if you have questions, burning things that keep you awake at night, email us, info@gothamsound.com. We will put your fears to rest.
Yes, or maybe you'll find yourself here in one of these chairs. Maybe that's the worst possible outcome.
Oof, terrible. All right.
Thanks so much. Again, I'm Matt Tenero, Nick Houston. Come talk to us here at Gotham Sound at any time. Thanks.